everyone, it's Judy Dietrich. I have a very special guest today. I'm very, very excited. I actually just finished recording a podcast with him, Inside PR, for those of you who don't know. And I'd love to introduce you to him on video. You've certainly seen him in text. Hello, sir. Please tell us who you are and what you do.
I am Martin Waxman. Honestly, I don't know what I do these days. No,
yeah, well, we wonder too, but...
You know, it's funny. I think being in PR, we always kind of had an identity crisis. And I think social media made that identity crisis even bigger. And now I think, you know, I'm a PR guy turned social media guy, really doing a lot of training and workshops, trying to teach people how to navigate and communicate in this new world, trying to teach myself how to use mobile better. As opposed to just incessantly try to figure out how to use visuals to tell stories, not just print. So that's who I am.
And you also do, you teach at the university.
Yes, I teach social and digital media at University of Toronto School of Continuing Studies to professionals, which is really great because the classes vary in age from, you know, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and up sometimes. And it's the discussion you get is fantastic. This semester, I just had my last class last night, and I had 38 students, which meant the discussions were just crazy. They were fantastic. But you know, I had to go, okay, we have to stop. We have to move on.
We have to actually get through this class.
Yeah,
are you doing online for them too? Or?
I am. I did 2 sections, in class and online. For digital reputation management class. The online hasn't really picked up yet. So there were only 9 students, 38 in class, 9 online. But I think in the winter it's going to change as more students pass through the program because it's a 3rd course. So, you know, we have to have enough people who have taken the 1st and the 2nd online to take the 3rd. And that seems to be happening. And then you, Ginny, have done many guest lectures for that class. And in fact,
many of our community members have come from your classes.
That's true. And Spin Sucks is the textbook for the course. And I sent you this earlier in the week or last week. We had our final online webinar. And I was just saying to the students, okay, so what worked, what didn't work? And it's fantastic in the webinars because part of it is text. You know, people will be texting because their internet connection isn't great. Part of it is people will be talking. You'll see video, just audio. And they just started talking about Spin Sucks and how great it was and how they're using it at work. And it's so fantastic to have a book that has theory but real practical experience and it's applicable. It was amazing. It was like, you know, an endorsement. You could put that on the back cover of the next edition.
Let me use it. What is the biggest mistake you've made in the last 6 months?
Oh wow, last 6 months. That's see the biggest.
I changed that question.
You did, because now I have to think short term, and I'm trying to think. The last 6 months. The biggest mistake I've made in the last 6 months. Can I come back to this, or I have to?
Not come back to this.
Like I make many mistakes, all on the same magnitude. I think the biggest mistake I made is really that I prioritize my time badly, and I am too much of, I'm not a procrastinator, but I like to flip between tabs and screens and have so many things open. And I'm trying to focus on what's called deep work.
Yep.
Which are the important big projects, because that's when you get stuff done. Whereas, you know, a tweet is the opposite of deep work. Not that they're not valuable. They are, because, you know, they take me to just so many fantastic links and conversations and stuff. So I guess the biggest mistake I've done, and it's not really concrete, but it's more of an approach mistake.
So are you scheduling time to do deep work, or are you trying to like block out, I'm going to do 2 hours of really deep work every day, or how are you doing that?
Well, as a procrastinator, I put it off to 2016.
Oh!
I'm going to start.
We're going to talk about this in a year, and we'll see how you did. Is that what you're Got it.
Yes. So I am going to try to schedule it. Now I schedule. Yeah, you're really good at it, and you're really disciplined at writing. And I've always been an undisciplined writer to start and disciplined once I get going. And so the problem is, unless you start, you can't get going.
Correct. That is correct. Yeah, but I mean, truth be told, especially this year, because this year was so insanely crazy that if we didn't have a community and we weren't making money from Spin Sucks, I wouldn't have been as disciplined this year. Hands for sure, I wouldn't have.
Well, that's good. Okay, and I did figure out my mistake.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I actually do have a concrete mistake too, rather than a BS I told you, although it's not. It's really true. I do want to focus on deep work. I really, really do. So the mistake has to do with my website. When Google announced Mobilegeddon, and I looked at my website, and it really was not mobile friendly. It was responsive, but responsive because it shrunk down so small that you couldn't see the text. So
I don't think that's responsive.
Well, it is. It responded to the size. Just it didn't.
Responded to the fair. Okay.
It just didn't respond properly. You know, kind of like someone taking the fifth, right? They're responding.
How did you fix that?
Okay, so well, I'm still in the middle of it. Actually, I went to my the person who did the website, which I really liked. I said, "Hey, this is happening. Can you fix it?" And they said, "Sure, we can." And I said, "Do I need to have a new WordPress template? Like, will this one work?" They said, "Hey, no problem, no problem. We'll just do it." And what they ended up doing, and it cost me almost as much as it would have to design a new site, they put it in a template called Skeleton, and they just literally copied and pasted the pieces in and then made it so it shrunk, but it never looked good. And so I've been working with someone to redesign the site, and we finally put it up, but it's put up and it's not ready. And I'm tinkering with it, and it's really almost like the 1.0 version. So there it is. It's the 1.0 version. It's up there. It's like, eh.
Something's up there at least.
Well, something's up there. It's better than it was, but
I have to go there on my phone now.
yes, you will. Well, you can see the header image isn't quite right yet.
MartinWaxman.com.
I like the blue, though.
While I'm doing that, what industry practice or advice would you most like to cry foul on? Oh, wait, that's pretty. It looks good.
You like it, but look at the picture of me. Do you see it's just like the teeniest part of my face?
No, I kind of like it. It's just the profile.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, thank you. Check it out on your screen. Oh.
It looks like it's on purpose. I like it.
All right. That's good. Well, that's the responsiveness of it.
There you go. That's interesting. Okay.
What industry practice would I like to cry foul on? I think it is using the 4 words, pick up the phone. And too many senior PR people are saying that to too many junior PR people, pick up the phone, when media, and certainly bloggers, generally don't want to be called. There are exceptions if you have a relationship with them, but to sit there on the phone for hours on end going through a list, you just don't do it anymore. One, it never worked if you were just calling a list, you know, as if you were a boiler room. Sure, you know, some things stick, you might get lucky, but figure out what makes sense to people. Treat, you know, media and bloggers as if they were your customers, and figure out,
gosh, imagine that,
what they need, rather than, oh, I got the story, push, 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 push. And I think that is the one thing that I want people to stop doing. And the other thing, I want people to stop clinging. I know this is to the news release, because
we're talking about that on Inside PR. Yes,
the news releases were invented in the last century, at the turn of the last century, by a guy named Ivy Ledbetter Lee, right? For those of our listeners or viewers who know PR history, and he was a journalist. He wanted to kind of formalize communications, make it seem that we were a little bit more serious than the hucksters that press agents were. And so he copied an article, and that was really great. But news releases came from a time when it was okay to call men Ivy. Okay? So it's no longer okay to do that. And I think we need to figure out what new formats can we use, and what new formats can we use on mobile.
Well, which begs the question, what are you looking at from a trend perspective going into the new year?
Well, I've written so much about this and talked about this. I mean, it's obsessing me. It's obsessing me so much that I want Google to call me up and say, "We want to pay you to be a spokesperson," but they haven't done that. And what it is it's Google's micro moments.
Micro moment, moment two, micro moment.
Yes, you can see.
Micro moment, and look, more micro moments.
I know, which I'm fascinated by them. I'm fascinated because it's really the new way we discover things. We used to discover things, you pick up the newspaper, for example, and it was on the front page and go, "Ooh, look at what's happening. Look at what I need to know." And then it evolved to online, TV, broadcast, and online. And now really it is our phone. So what is there in that moment when we're searching? And how can we as communicators, marketers, create that content that actually shows up? So one, we have to show up and search. Two, we have to answer the questions that our customers and our clients are asking in order to win at the front end of search, something else we talked about on Inside PR. And then, of course, figure out, how do you put in the proper SEO measures? So I think that's what I'm hoping for. And I can't wait till virtual reality comes in. I know I read a great post by David Berkowitz, who from New York, who talks about that 2016 is not going to be the year of virtual reality because it's just in its publicity phase. And it's true. It's all the PR stories.
Don't tell Shell Israel that because he's all like, this is it.
We don't have the technology yet and it's not mainstream.
Yeah, it's not mainstream yet. But it is something I think to pay attention to.
Yeah. I can't wait. Means I'll never have to move. I just want to figure out a way.
Down the street.
Yeah, I wanted to do my 10,000 steps virtually.
What's one thing about yourself that would surprise most people? I feel like I could answer this.
Yeah, you probably could. Well, there are a few things that would surprise people. Probably one thing that would surprise people is that I auditioned to be a novelty act on Saturday Night Live.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was something based on just a one-time thing, based on something that I used to do when I did comedy with recorders. I don't want to go into it, and I'm certainly not going to perform it now. But they were short 2 minutes. A friend of mine was friends with one of the writers, and he said, "Hey, this guy should come in." And so I came in, I did it. They seemed to laugh. And then the band said, "Hey, we want to do another song." So they said, "Sorry, kid."
Oh.
So it was
for the band.
Yeah, but it was pretty exciting going up the elevator in 30 Rock,
Yeah, that's amazing. I did not know that story. See, look at that. And I know you fairly well.
Yeah, so at least I have a couple of new things to say. New old things.
Some secrets. What's the best book you've read in the last 6 months?
That's actually an interesting one. The best book I've read in the last 6 months. I'm trying to. Can you give me 2 seconds to think about that? No, because I haven't read that much in the last 6 months, book-wise. I've just been too busy, and it's like a void. So I'm just waiting for the holidays.
Yeah, and you've been doing a ton of you find a ton of stuff outside of sort of our normal sphere that you've been reading a lot about.
Yeah, but still, so I'm just gonna cheat on that and look at my Kindle app and tell you what the best book I've read in the last 6 months. It's funny because I was a pretty big reader in the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my eyes that I need multifocals. I find I don't read books as much.
Well, remember, this was probably maybe 2 years ago, but I remember having this conversation on Inside PR with Joe, and he talked about how hard it is, to read on your iPad or your phone on the Kindle app because there's so much happening. And he's right. Like if I'm reading, I have to put my iPad in airplane mode. Otherwise, I can't. Did you read The Martian?
No, but I saw it.
Did you read The Girl in the Spider's Web?
No.
Did you read the new Harper Lee?
No. And you know what? I've never read To Kill a Mockingbird. I've seen it about.
Care of that.
I know. I've seen it about 20 or 30 times. Okay. You know what? The best book I read was a biography of Kurt Vonnegut. It was a long biography. It was about 500 pages. I did read it about 3 months ago. It took me a couple months to get through, but it was fantastic because it was his life as I didn't know it. So a lot about his growing up in Indianapolis, a lot about his family, that his mom's parents were like these rich German brewers. They were made beer.
Huh.
That there was a Vonnegut hardware store in Indianapolis, and a lot of the family worked there, and he worked there some summers. And then just how long it took him to break through. It was fascinating. And that also in his later years, how Jill Kremens, his second wife, really controlled access to him.
Really interesting.
Yeah. And kind of how depressed he was in his last years. It was fascinating. And he is, I would say, my favorite author of all time. Yeah. And so that book, it was tough for me to read because it was a side of him that I didn't want. It was a side of him that was more angry and that wasn't as optimistic and wasn't, it was really the real him. So now you see who he was as a person, and sure, he wasn't perfect, but I think I have a better understanding of his book. Now I want to reread them all. So that was the best book. I don't know why I blocked that.
All right, we'll have to check it out. I'll put it in the blog post. All right, tell everybody where they can find you online.
You can find me on Twitter at Martin Waxman. You can find me on InsidePR.ca.
He's now doing the outro for Inside PR.
So you get to hear that. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn at martinwaxman.com. Or if you bump into me on the street, I do respond when you tap me on the shoulder. I jump, but I respond.
Most people.
Yeah.
I can think of one or two that you might avoid. But.
Trolls.
Yes.
And let's leave it at that.
Thank you, Martin. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Ginny. Thank you.